Welcome back to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. Well, Tony Grossi finally has come to his senses and seen what everybody else is seeing in Dillon Gabriel. And he basically said Dillon Gabriel is trash and he's not an NFL quarterback and Shedeur Sanders is better than him. But we're going to talk about that right after the intro. Well, guys, man, finally, Tony Grossi has come to his senses about Dillon Gabriel. After his observation of Dillon Gabriel in these 4 games that Dillon Gabriel has been on an NFL field, he's finally came to the conclusion that Dillon Gabriel is not an NFL quarterback. Now, in the past, Tony Grossi was vouching for Dillon Gabriel, talking about he was much better than Shedeur Sanders. That's why Cleveland has him as the starting quarterback ever since Joe Flacco has been traded, and Shedeur Sanders can't be elevated over top of him because Dillon Gabriel is much more prepared. He's much more seasoned. He has more experience than Shedeur, and he's talking about the experience that Dillon Gabriel had in college. A 6-year senior, started a record 60-some FBS games. And that's kudos to Dillon Gabriel. But when it comes to the NFL, this is a whole different ball game. Now, we've been on record and we've been saying it that Tony Grossi has some dislike for Shedeur Sanders as well. But in these recent weeks, Tony Grossi has been playing the flipperoo, Flipperachi. He's come out and said some good things about Shedeur Sanders, which was unbelievable. But this all dates back to the pre-draft, when Tony Grossi actually was high on Shedeur Sanders, said nothing about Dillon Gabriel. Now, once Dillon Gabriel gets drafted in the 3rd round and Shedeur gets drafted in the 5th round, then all of a sudden Tony Grossi wanted to come out and talk all this stuff about Dillon Gabriel, and then he wanted to undermine Shedeur Sanders, talking about Shedeur Sanders was not better than Dillon Gabriel. He don't know the playbook. He hasn't learned. He hasn't progressed. And also, no teams in the NFL want him. Nobody has come knocking on Cleveland's door or ringing their phone line, interested in the trade. That's a lie, Tony Grossi. We know that teams was asking about Shedeur Sanders, but the Cleveland Browns organization wanted a 2nd-round pick for Shedeur. That's facts. How you going to give somebody a 2nd-round pick and you drafted Shedeur in the 5th round? Now, Tony Grossi has seen what we've all been seeing in these last 4 games, that Dillon Gabriel is not an NFL quarterback. He's undersized. He can't get the ball downfield. He struggles through his progressions, and he always takes the conservative approach on the checkdowns. That's why all the running backs have more targets than the wide receivers downfield. And Tony Grossi finally realizes this. And Tony Grossi on the Rizzo show today, he said some things, and I want you guys to pay attention to what Tony Grossi said about Dillon Gabriel. Now, we've said that Tony Grossi is a flip-flopper. You know what I'm saying? Now, he can't protect Dillon Gabriel no more. He can't vouch for Dillon Gabriel no more because Dillon Gabriel is actually making Tony Grossi look miserable. And Tony Grossi wants to defend Dillon Gabriel, but he can't defend Dillon Gabriel no more. But before we get off into that, we partnered up with Underdog Fantasy, and this is a word from our sponsor.
Underdog Fantasy is the best way to play fantasy sports. Let me tell you about the easiest way to get in on some WNBA and NBA action. Find your player, pick higher or lower, win you some extra cash. Pick between 2 to 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and win some serious cash. Use my promo code SBD23 and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now that it's football time, follow Simply Ball Dropping as I share my picks. Like I said, pick your player, choose your amount, win money. Make picks, win cash. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for the partnership with us, and thank you for using promo code SBD23 on Underdog Fantasy.
With that being said, man, let's listen to what Flipperachi had to say. Tony Grossi, the words that he said about Dillon Gabriel today when he was on the Tony Rizzo show. And about time you realize what we've all been saying, Tony Grossi. Dillon Gabriel is not an NFL quarterback, and Shedeur Sanders is 10 times better than him. Now you see what we see. Let's take a listen to what Grossi had to say.
I know they've had drop pass problems early on. I know they had offensive line problems early on. And I know that the former play caller has gotten criticism. But I really lay this at the hands of the quarterback. I mean, he's got to see the field better. And maybe that's kind of a motivation behind Kevin's move to give Reese the play calls. Maybe Reese can get him out of the pocket better and make him more comfortable so he could see the field better. But it's obvious that Dillon Gabriel can't operate an NFL offense from the pocket. He just can't see the field from what I see. There were no offensive line problems in New England. Okay, he had plenty of time to throw. He was not under duress, and he threw 9 passes to wide receivers. That you can't win that way. You can't even compete that way. It's evidenced by that.
Now you hear what Tony Grossi had to say. Tony Grossi is finally coming to his senses about Dillon Gabriel. Everything that we've said about Dillon Gabriel leading up to him getting this quarterback one position. And it's kind of crazy that Dillon Gabriel is assuming all the first team reps in practice. But I have to agree with one thing Kevin Stefanski said. Dillon Gabriel needs all the help he can get. He needs all the reps he can get. And see, when it's coming to Shedeur Sanders, I don't think Shedeur Sanders needs all them reps because we know what Shedeur Sanders is capable of doing. And just like Mary Kay said, another Flipperachi said that Shedeur Sanders is picking up this offense. He got the playbook, his ability to come to the line of scrimmage, shift protection, audible out of plays that are not suitable for the offense because the defense is in a man, defense is in a zone, a defense is in a zone blitz, a defense is in a 3-4, a defense is in a nickel, 2 safeties high. Shedeur Sanders has all them abilities to read a defense and check out of plays and push the ball downfield. The same thing that Tony Grossi said about Dillon Gabriel in the New England game. He had a clean pocket, but he just could not push the ball down the field because he relied on his running backs catching the ball out of the backfield because every time he would say hike, even in the shotgun formation, it was just the conservative approach by just dipping and dunking. And we've seen that. And the gig is up. You know what I'm saying? Tony Grossi, you finally come to your senses. Now you want to bash Dillon Gabriel. You should have been bashing Dillon Gabriel from the start. You should have kept it a buck. You should have just said that Dillon Gabriel shows you nothing. Because now, I've always said, what don't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. And a lot of things are coming out in the rinse about Dillon Gabriel. Now y'all seeing it firsthand. So what does that mean? It's time for Shedeur Sanders to get his shot, to show y'all what he's capable of doing, to prove to you guys that he is 10 times better than Dillon Gabriel on an NFL level. Now, going into this Jets game, Tommy Reese has assumed the play calling. Let's see what it looks like. But if it looks bad and Dillon Gabriel is the same person, then that's when you guys got to say, look, Dillon Gabriel just don't cut it. I see everybody in the comment section, #salute. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball Dropping drops another hot banger. Oh yeah, just in case I forgot. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. Also, join the community as we reach for the stars. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.